They got the refs in their pocket. So kudos to the guys who are great at that part of the game. Well, the league is backing the referee's in-game decision, saying the call was correct. Chris, do you think this Clippers team is mentally tough enough to contend this year?
This is clearly a J-Mac manufactured question.
Oh, wow.
Right? But I'll play along, all right? First of all, the league was wrong. That wasn't a good call. James Harden initiated the contact. We always talk about what? No hand checking today. He was on Kawhi's shoulder like that, and Kawhi kind of just getting him off of him. So I disagree with the league. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it because you play through it, stuff happens. But I think that was a bad call. I'd have liked to have seen them just let them play through it. You brought up Paul George's quote. I noticed you didn't bring up Kawhi Leonard's. Kawhi is the leader of this team. At least he's the best player. That's for darn sure. And Kawhi said, no call, so I guess it was good defense. He's moving on. All right, so this little narrative you want to paint, J-Mac, that the Clippers are crushed mentally, emotionally. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard can't stop thinking about this play and the way the officials have it in for them and all of that. No, stop it. All right, the question was, can they contend? Contend. Not can they or will they win the championship. Can they contend? Are they mentally tough enough to do that? Absolutely. All right, Kawhi Leonard has made the necessary attitude adjustment. He needed it. All right? I thought last year he and the rest of them thought they could step on the court and win because of their talent. Now Kawhi is playing back-to-backs more often. And I know LeBron always plays back-to-backs. Many players do. So I'm not trying to give him flowers for playing back-to-backs. I'm just saying it's emblematic of a different mentality. He hadn't been playing back-to-backs since 2017. So that shows that he's more engaged. He has learned his lesson, if you will, from what happened last year. Montrezl Harrell is gone. He's down the hall in the Lakers locker room. He wasn't a guy that was happy with the way things were going last year. So that's a plus. Serge Ibaka, a locker room guy. I think he's helped their chemistry. On the court, Ty Lue has the ball in Paul George's hands a little more. So he's leading them in assists, being more of a playmaker. I like a lot of the things I'm seeing with the Clippers. They're the best three-point shooting team in the league percentage-wise, and they're the best free throw shooting team in the league percentage-wise, which is huge at the end of games. I'll give you this, J-Mac. The question that we all have is not so much about Kawhi Leonard, I don't think. I mean, I don't see why anybody's questioning his medal. All right, he's got 2 championships. He led Toronto to the championship, beat Embiid, beat Giannis in tough playoff rounds. You want to talk about him struggling last year against Denver? Fine, he did. But I can point to every single player that's a superstar. I can point to a bad moment or stretch in the playoffs, from LeBron to Magic, everybody except the GOAT, Michael Jordan. And so I'm not going to hold that against Kawhi. The guy that's the question mark is Paul George, who's having a great year. 24 points, 5.5 dimes, 6 rebounds, a ridiculous 47% shooting from 3. Great year. But we do have to see him in the playoffs. I'll give you that. He had a great year 2 years ago in Oklahoma City, but we didn't see it in the playoffs. So I'll give you that playoff P or way off P, whatever you want to call him. That's a little bit of a question mark. But remember, he's the second best player, not the first. The second best player. The first player, Kawhi, I got confidence in. So, again, I'm picking the Lakers in the West. But I do think the Clippers are a contender, and I wouldn't be shocked if they were able to upset the Lakers.
Yeah, so mentally tough enough. You know, Chris, back in 3rd grade, I was so good at arguing with my teacher that at parent-teacher night, the teacher said, you know, your son Jason, he might be a lawyer. He's good at arguing. And I like to bring evidence to the table, Chris. And you keep saying that this team's mentally tough enough. I'm looking through the evidence. I got nothing. There is nothing, zero, that shows this Clippers team can contend late in games. They are dead last, Chris, dead last in the NBA in defensive rating in clutch moments this season. meaning final 5 minutes, game is 5 points or less. They rank dead last. They just don't come through in the clutch. We saw it last year, up 3-1 on Denver. What happens, Chris? Leading at halftime of the final 3 games, and they blow it every time. So they fire the coach, and they promote his assistant. Chris, there are contestants on The Bachelor right now that have a better chance at the ring than the LA Clippers do. This team is just not mentally tough enough. And frankly, Chris, I don't think they're good enough, okay? Lou Williams vanishes fourth quarter. He used to be Mr. Clutch for them. You got a better chance of finding him on a milk carton than on the court in the fourth quarter. They don't play him because LeBron and everybody matchup hunts Lou Williams. Where's Luke Kennard, the guy they spent $64 million on, okay? $64 million on Luke Kennard. He don't play in crunch time. They're trotting out Nick Batum, Serge Ibaka. Like, Chris, you're way off on the Clippers here. This team is criminally overrated. LeVar Arrington, I'm sorry to go on the Clippers 2 days in a row, but I'm telling you, man, this team is just so fraudulent right now. They've built up wins against bad teams. I know they beat the Jazz last week. That was a good win. They needed that one. But overall, this team just ain't there.
There are a lot of conversations that surround this Clippers team, some good, some bad. When I look at them, do they have the talent to be able to get far, to be able to win it all? Yes, they do have the talent to be able to do it. Mental toughness, I'm on the fence about it. I really am. I don't want to commit to saying that they have the mental fortitude to be able to go deep into the playoffs and grind it out. It looked as though last year, for some strange reason, whether it was in the bubble, the way the season was interrupted, I'll give them a pass on that. But they disappeared. I didn't see what you would think would be the leadership from Kawhi, the leadership from Paul George, the killer mentality we saw Kawhi have in Toronto when they won the championship. I don't know why that is. It makes me think to myself, where is the leadership as players? A lot of times you look at the teams that have winning seasons. Look, we talk about Tom Brady. He's an ultimate leader first. And you need that as a coach, right? Like, you get rid of Doc Rivers, it's not all on Doc Rivers. You got to have that cohesive unit, and it has to be created by the players. I just don't really see, I haven't seen that with the Clippers when I watch them. And it just seems like it gets to individuals playing for the wins versus a team. Yep. And so when I look at this Clippers team, talent-wise, yes, they can do it. Mental toughness, that's a whole nother game. And really, that's where you get ahead. When you think about the LeBrons and you think about the Kobes and you think about the MJs, that mental toughness that you saw from them, along with that leadership, is the difference maker. You cannot win in this league without those two factors being present, because there are too many other teams that have those factors present. So to me, I think the verdict is still out on that one. The jury's going to come in, and it's going to be purely based upon the closing arguments of what Paul George and Kawhi Leonard bring to the table, leadership-wise and mental toughness-wise.
That's a great point.
J-Mac, you like to mention that Utah victory for the Clippers as if that's the only good victory they have. They've beaten the Lakers. They've beaten the Nuggets. They've beaten the Jazz, as you mentioned. They've beaten the Trailblazers. They've beaten the Suns. They've beaten every elite team in the West. Now, again, I'm with you. I think the Lakers are a better team. But you talk like the Clippers are the 7th best team in the West. Who's beating them in the playoffs other than the Lakers? I mean, are you talking about why is Denver the 7th seed? Are you talking about why Jamal Murray hasn't, despite the 50-point game he had the other night, hasn't capitalized on what he did in the bubble? They're struggling in Denver. Now, Utah looks good.
They dismissed them
that team went out in the first round last year.
They dismissed
and we got to see what they do in the playoffs. So I'm just saying you're way too hard on the Clippers, and you're missing the boat on them.
Yeah. You remember last year, Chris, we debated this a lot. You kept saying, oh, the Clippers are dogs. They got dogs. They're barking. I mean, Patrick Beverley, his bark is far worse than his bite, okay? Whoa. That guy is all talk. All he wants to do is get technicals. He can't really play. Remember in the bubble, he was chirping at Damian Lillard, okay? They were laughing at Damian Lillard. Oh, we got you with our backups. And they ended up getting bounced themselves by Jokic. And you can see a big weakness for the Clippers, Chris. Interior defense. They got nothing. Jokic ate them up. in that series, okay? Jamal Murray destroyed. I mean, he embarrassed Patrick Beverley. And now you look this year. Well, how are they going to handle Anthony Davis? You know, if they have to face Jokic again, they got no answer for him. And I don't want to hear Serge Ibaka is the guy, okay? He's a good defender. He's an upgrade, certainly, over Harrell. But interior defense worries me. And again, you know, Paul George. Like, listen, LeVar and I were talking about Paul George during the break. LeVar's eyes popped out of his head when he said, wow, Paul George hasn't been to the conference finals since he was in Indy? That was like 4 teams ago, Chris. I refuse to give them, hey, man, they're mentally tough. And even Kawhi Leonard, I'm sorry, the leader of that Toronto team, okay, in the locker room was Kyle Lowry. Go ask anybody, Chris. You talk to a lot of people around the league. Kyle Lowry was the heart and soul. Yeah, Kawhi Leonard was the best player, took the last shot, but Kyle Lowry was the heart and soul of that Toronto team.
Kawhi's not a leader. Yeah. You know, he's a great player. He is their best player. But if any leadership is going to be by example, right? Okay, I'll give you that. He's not the rah-rah guy. And you jump on Paul George, and again, that's a question mark. We'll see if playoff P shows up. All right.